those of you who have always wanted to swing from the chandelier, this DIY is for you. Let's check it out. So a good friend of mine who is a singer-dancer one time brought to me the idea that she wanted to get into the aerial hoop movements like Lyra and things like that. And when I first looked it up, I thought it was amazing. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing. They can put on, you know, certain songs, they'll kind of choreograph their movements to go with the music and things like that. It's super cool and looks really difficult. I mean, I think about the time I might be on a pull-up bar and imagine like sitting on it or laying on it. I mean, that could be a bit painful, but you know, it all comes with practice and things like that. Now in this video, of course, I won't get into how to do Lyra movements because I don't know how, but for her, I was able to build this suspension pole so that she could hang her hoop as high as she wants it, up to about, you know, 12 or 13 feet, which I guess it's never going to need to be that high. So we'll get right into this and I'll show you guys what it took to get this thing together, start cutting some pipe and laying out the design. And also, make sure you guys check out the Kate Cirque channel because that's where you can see some really cool videos. And I found her on YouTube. She's amazing. It looks like, you know, she's really been doing this for a while. Make sure you guys go show some support on that channel as well. To start out, I want to say this was some 3-inch Schedule 40 steel pipe that I was using, and this stuff is definitely heavy. It's probably a little bit more than what's, you know, necessary to build something like this, but I do like for things to last a long time, and I figured, you know, if it's a little stronger than what it needs to be, I mean, that's a good thing. You'd rather build it stronger than weaker. So I basically took some measurements. I decided to make it 8 feet wide, and one thing I would definitely change after setting it up is maybe if you could build it 10 feet wide or a little bit more, just to make sure that the aerialist isn't gonna, you know, have their arm or their legs like stretched out fully. I mean, of course, I don't know anybody that's 10 feet tall, but if you think about the hoops swinging a little bit, or maybe them being more to one side of it, you wouldn't want them to worry about their arm hitting the pole or they're, you know, doing a spin and their leg hitting it. So if there's one thing I could go back and change, I would say I would probably go at least 10 feet wide. But so far it seems like that 8 feet wide is working out, and you know, it was probably about the borderline. But if you're doing one of these, I would say make it a little bit wider if you can. We were also unsure on the space that we were going to have available to install this thing as well. So that was a little bit of the hesitation for making it bigger. Once I had the width and the height kind of figured out, I went ahead and cut a few extra poles to make some diagonal braces. You know, they were probably about a foot long. Just something to put in the corners to make sure that it was extra sturdy there. I also wanted to make the top section of this setup where it was able to be removed. That way the poles could be put in the ground kind of by themselves. I mean, even though I assembled the whole unit, I kind of wanted this thing to be maintainable. So if I ever had to do anything to that upper pole, again, I wanted to be able to remove that separately. And that's why it has a few pipes that are a little smaller, and it slides in. So once it was fully set up, if you ever needed to take this thing apart, you would just take out the 2 bolts that go through the pipes, and you'd be able to slide the whole head of this thing off. And you would just have those 2 standing poles left in the ground to do whatever kind of mods that you needed to do as well. So once I got to a point where I had most of the pieces cut and felt like I had a pretty good idea of how I wanted this thing to go together, I got out the welding machine and got with it. And of course, here's one of those nice videos where we get to validate the name of the channel, Late Night DIY. You can see the time lapse of the sun going down, and I work into the night quite often, so this is pretty normal for me, but it's kind of nice when we get to do that. Of course, just like with any welding job that you're doing, you definitely want to spend the time cleaning the metal and all the rust and stuff like that off. You know, I use a grinder with a really cool sanding wheel on it, and it's not just the flat sanding pad, it's the grinder wheel that has a bunch of little overlapped pieces of sandpaper, and they last pretty long. I mean, they actually seem to work really well. So that's that's a great way to clean the metal and not really grind it away. It's just like high-speed sanding. So grab a few of those at your local store. They're definitely handy to have. Now here's the part where you can see me adding the little insert pipes, and what I decided to do was add them to this top piece, because if I welded the insert pipes to the legs that go in the ground, I kind of felt like, well, it might be, I don't know, I don't really know exactly the reason that I came up with, but I liked the idea of having those inserts attached to the head of this thing. So that if I ever had to do anything with the poles, they were just poles. There was nothing special about them. I felt like all the work mostly went in to the top part, and that way, you know, hopefully that never had to be modified, or just, it's just that little background mentality that I have of the maintenance of something, or repair ever. I try to make it to where it's going to be more simple. So there's a little bit of a thought process there, but it's really not super critical. I mean, you could put those smaller pipe inserts on the legs or on the upper piece. It really doesn't matter, but it's just kind of the way that I work, and it's what I decided to do just based on my most educated experience, I guess. I've got it flipped upside down right now. Like, that'll be obviously the legs of it, they'll be downward. But if you're under it, there's going to be these eye bolts. That's what I figured out. I need to go to Lowe's and get 4 more of them. But this is cool because they'll go through, and you can either turn it this way or that way to use it, and it'll be held on with a nut down here. And I'm going to do 5 of them. So like, if somebody ever wanted to put 2 swings on it, you have 2 that way, 2 that way, and then there's the middle one. But that's like, if, who knows, like way in the future or something, you just never know. Maybe you want to use different points to hang your thing from it too. So there's different options. So this is a pretty smooth project so far. It's coming together nice, and I don't feel like I have to put it together to make sure that it's going to work. I know that the insert pipes fit in both sides, whether it's the legs or of course they're welded to the top section. So I don't really have to worry about like a pre-assembly. I think everything's going to go fine with installation. That being said, I'm going to get into the paint process. You know, that's kind of my favorite part. Just mainly clean up all the rust. When it comes to automotive paint, it can be kind of forgiving with, you know, surfaces, but of course it shows everything. So as far as adhesion, I mean, use a good etching primer, get the base coat and the clear coat on. And again, like I say in all my videos, I never ever use cheap clear coat. Anything that's like $100, $150 a gallon. I want to say some of the brands I've seen out there like Smart Clear, TrendStar, you know, all these, or even the Omni, like even the cheap lines of the good companies, I leave them alone. Everything I use currently is Sherwin-Williams Ultra, and it's probably $600 or $700, which you get the gallon of clear with the hardener and the reducer. But it's totally worth it. Anything that's going to sit out in the sun needs to have premium clear coat on it, or it's going to peel off within a year or 2. So there we go. Rant over. Always got to give that little spiel on clear coat. But we'll get into this little paint job and see how it comes out. Now with any of these paint jobs, you always want to blow the dust off from all your sanding and whatnot, and definitely use a good wax and grease remover. I know PPG has that DX330, I want to say it's called, and I get that stuff at Lowe's. It says VM&P naphtha or something like that. I don't know, it almost smells kind of like kerosene, but it seems to clean the surfaces pretty good. So go with that, and once you're ready to spray, just get it all put on and let it cure. Now, my friend Sarah, who I'm building this bar for, she's definitely one of those that, you know, she loves to just kind of make her own thing, you know. She doesn't really care about things looking and matching, and you know, it's like if she wants to try something out there, she'll totally do it. And I knew it was like totally her personality, you know. I didn't think, when I asked for color, I was kind of like, you know, I bet she's gonna pick something really cool, something kind of eccentric, because, you know, that's how she is. She's a very unique personality, super cool person, one of the coolest friends that I've had. She's also, you know, like I said, a singer and dancer, very talented. And she responded to my message like, can you come out with a really bright pastel pink? So that's what I did. I had a dark kind of magenta in my leftover paint stuff along with some white, and I said, well, let me mix them and see what I can come up with. And that's basically what we got. I even added a little bit of pearl in it, so it had a little bit of a sparkle if you look at it close in the sun. Came out super cool. And then I sent her a message with a little video whenever I was mixing it, so I'll post that in here and you can check it out. What do you think about this for a pastel pink? I don't know, maybe a little bit lighter. It's hard to tell, I know, with the flash, but it's pretty light. I mean, it's fairly light. I did a half and half of the white and the pink that I have. Alright, so once you've got that metal protected, we were ready for install. So I picked a day to go do it. And basically I knew I was digging my holes on 8-foot centers. And I got them about as close as I could. And I compensated a little bit. There's one part in one video you'll see that I leveled it. And basically the poles ended up the perfect height. I mean, I couldn't have really asked for it to be any better for the depth. Because it was pretty much like I set the poles in the holes. I leveled them with some 2x4s or 2x3s, whatever it was. And then once I stood it up straight and got everything leveled, the top bar was also level. And that's exactly what I wanted. I couldn't have asked for better. I knew the ground was a little bit lower on one side, so I just make sure that I dug that hole to be a tad bit more shallow. And worked out great. Right now the holes are deep enough to like hold this up. It's not really that bored, it's just kind of sitting there. But there's a band clamp. Put 3 of these brackets around and you can build the tripod that way. Just put a screw right through it into the 2x4, boom. It'll hold it up and you'll see. I'll take pictures. It's one of those places where experience definitely pays off. So I dug my holes and then I looked at the ground and I was measuring the depth of the holes and I said, you know what, it looks like the ground is about 2 inches lower over here. So I made that hole 2 inches shallower, give or take a little. And as soon as I put the poles in, I mean, I haven't done any adjustments. I'm gonna level this and just going by the hooks. Look at that bubble. Like literally right where the hell I want it. Try to keep it there. I mean, it might be off by a tad, but my gosh, it's not even worth messing with. I mean, it's so level, just digging the holes. I mean, anyway, that was kind of cool. I could make a tiny adjustment if I want to throw a rock under one side, but yeah, that was dang close. We got concrete poured. I used these little, you know, the concrete pouring sleeves. I just cut a piece and slid them into the ground after I got the poles set up where I needed them. And that's the way that it worked out. So all that was really left with this one was to go back once the concrete had cured for, you know, I gave it like a week or so, especially with little poles like this. I let it sit, and they weren't in a huge hurry to have it done. So I went back and basically cleaned up the mess, got the braces taken down, and that was it. It was good to go, and I think overall, you know, this project went pretty smooth. Like I said in the beginning, for something that you're going to be like swinging from in different directions, I would probably say maybe go 10 feet wide in the future. I think this 8 feet wide is working out pretty good so far, and she hasn't said anything about it being too narrow, but I would say maybe 10 feet just to be a little bit more on the safe side, or even wider if you had, you know, the right bracing and things to span however far you could. I mean, it really just all depends on the space you have. So hopefully you guys got something good from this video. I always ask for you to hit that like button because it does help grow the channel, and the subscription as well is also a very good thing. So thank you guys, and if you have a DIY that you'd like to see, send me some messages or comments, and maybe I've got something in the works that I can finish up. There's a lot of different projects that I do and a lot of stuff coming up. So I hope to see you guys back here again. Take care out there, and happy building always. Later.